In this episode, Tarka goes on her first proper voyage of the year, up the River Deben, and it's an enormous success. Not before we get her stuck in some very sticky mud. And there's the story of my first attempt to spend a night on board Tarka. But first, a quick look back at Stewartby Old Gaffers Day. An open event where sailors of traditional gaffering boats, although the criteria really wasn't that strict, were invited to come down and join our little fleet. There was a little race, a chance to admire and possibly even sail each other's boats, and then in the evening a ceilidh band came and played some sea shanties and jigs. It was bitterly cold, but we were pretty lucky that the wind was friendly and the rain held off at least until the evening. It was a great day, much enjoyed by all, a celebration of life on the ocean wave in central Bedfordshire, or just simply messing about in boats. With the weekend of the Old Gaffers weekend being one of the occasional weekends when camping was allowed at the club, and with Tarka already being afloat, the night after the Old Gaffers Day was the one I had booked in for my first night sleeping aboard Tarka. The weather forecast was awful, but that didn't seem like a reason to change my plans. In fact, if anything, it seemed like a good reason to press on. Well, here I am, tucked up and about to turn in for my first night aboard Tarka. It's an excellent night for a test because it's forecast to rain all night, so we'll see how dry Tarka can keep me, but at the moment it seems very dry. I'm cosy, warm and snug. Tarka is moving gently, there's a little breeze blowing, I can feel her swinging on her mooring line. She's just tied up to a jetty, and I'll just show you the lantern, you'll see it swinging away as Tarka rocks in the wavelets. Isn't it strange, the things that bring joy? Why would I prefer a night in this slightly strange place to a night in, say, a very expensive and comfortable hotel? But I'm pretty sure I will. I can't really explain, but there we go. Night night. Sunday morning, and no, I didn't quite survive the night, unfortunately. I abandoned ship at 2:15 AM when it was becoming increasingly clear that I was going to be soggy very soon. Water was finding its way in slowly, a little bit through the roof, I think, through the ceiling, and also a little bit finding its way forward along the tanks. But there we go. It was very, very heavy rain last night. 3 hours of I won't say torrential, but pretty heavy rain was the point at which everything started to get a little bit soggy. So not bad, really. I think the tent is showerproof, and that's probably really all it needs to be for now. So it was comfy, and I was warm and snug. I just wasn't going to remain that way. So I'd say that was kind of 8 out of 10. About as good as I could hope for, probably. And good to try again when the weather is a little bit more friendly. What a difference to the weather a couple of weeks can make. That is the Ramsholt Arms in Suffolk, which might look familiar to you if you've seen the film Yesterday, the one in which a disillusioned musician suddenly finds himself in a world in which no one else has ever heard of the Beatles or any of their songs. There is the rest of my family playing I Spy on the key, and there is Tarka stuck in the mud. In a moment or two, as we continue to pan round, you'll see the Ramsholt slipway again, which just happens to be exactly the same width as Tarka's trailer. Before finalising my plans for Tarka's cruise, I gave the harbour master at Ramsholt a quick call. A very friendly man called Ian. It was one of those great phone calls where the answer to everything is positive. Yes, the slipway and the hard are available to use, and yes, the slipway is usable all the way down to low water. Unfortunately, I forgot to ask about the slipway's width. If the slipway had been just an inch or two narrower, we wouldn't have even attempted to use it, but with Ian the harbour master arriving just in time to give us a hand, and with it seeming to be an exact fit, we decided to give it a try. Our attempt was short-lived. It involved Ian and me pulling in opposite directions as we both tried to keep the wheel that we could see reasonably comfortably on the slipway. And after a short time, Sarah pointed out that the condition of the slipway did deteriorate slightly as we got further down, and really it would be unwise to try and take Tarka any further.
I'm worried about the wooden sides and the unevenness there, Joel.
Right, okay. Does it sort of get any wider as it gets onto that bit?
No, I think
So we went for plan B, launching from the hard.
it'll be alright because the tide's coming up so fast.
Yeah. The problem won't exist by the time you've solved it.
Yeah.
I haven't got my boots on.
At that time, there was about 2 yards of mud between the stones of the hard and the rising water. Then we thought it was worth trying to see if we could push Tarka through the mud far enough to get her launched. We couldn't. Tarka got well and truly stuck, and there was nothing else for it but to sit and wait until the water rose a bit further.
It is a roller. Right. It rolls on with the help of the winch. Ready?
About 20 minutes later, Sarah and I gave Tarka a big push and she floated. Some more friendly sailors helped us to haul Tarka's trailer out of the mud and up the hard. Shore leave was cancelled for the rest of the crew, and at last we were able to make our final preparations to set sail. The wind was light and very fickle as we sailed away from Ramsholt, but it built and steadied gradually as we sailed up the river with the flooding tide helping us along. And it wasn't long before we were approaching Waldringfield and sneaking our way through a very competitive topper race as we were eating our picnic lunch.
must be looking at.
Yeah. Funny one, isn't it?
At Waldringfield, there was plenty to look at and admire, including the sailing club, a fleet of beautiful wooden clinker-built racing dinghies. I think they're dragonflies.
Oh, something to stop the seagulls landing on its cover and pooing. A bird deterrent. Oh look, there's one here closer up, look.
And the village slipway.
Right behind us, James. You going round?
I emailed Waldringfield Sailing Club in the week before we made the trip to Suffolk, asking about using that slipway to launch from, and again had a very friendly, accommodating and positive reply. Yes, thank you for asking. You'd be welcome to use the slipway. It'd be free, with a suggestion of a donation to the RNLI, but with the caution that it was only really usable 1 hour either side of high water. That wasn't really going to work so well for us. We needed to launch and recover on the same high tide, and having just a 2-hour sail with the potential for clock watching on the way back to make sure we still had enough water didn't sound like it was going to be enough.
This is boatyard.
It began to dawn on me that I'd really been quite lucky with this trip. Having decided to launch at Ramsholt, due to the slipway being usable at almost any state of tide, but then discovering that it was too narrow for our trailer, we were very lucky that it did turn out that we were able to launch with just a 20-minute delay. If the timing of the tide on this particular day had been much different, then we really might not have had much of a trip at all. It seems that both places, Waldringfield and Ramsholt, are much better kitted out for small boats or yachts with their tenders. Maybe the launching requirements of a heavyweight dinghy like Tarka is going to make cruising on these tidal waters a bit more complicated than I thought it would be at first. We continue to sail on up the river, soon passing by the intriguing quay at Methersgate, where we wondered if the residents at Trot's Farm or Methergate's Hall used a boat or a car more often to do their weekly shopping. Troublesome reach, and with the sights of Woodbridge tantalisingly close, we decided unfortunately it was time we were going to have to turn round in order to make sure that we got back to the Ramsholt Arms before they closed the kitchens. With about an hour of the flood tide still to go, the current would be against us to begin with, and so we decided to use the motor for a short while to get us through the sheltered patch past Methersgate Quay, much to the delight of James. However, as we got closer to Waldringfield again, the river widened out, the wind picked up, and we had a wonderful close reach for a couple of miles down towards Shottisham Creek. The beach just beyond Shottisham Creek was certainly worth a closer look. We could see some more dinghy cruisers, looking like they were just getting ready to leave, and a little bit further along the beach, what looked a little bit like an old pirate ship.
That's a shipwreck. I've never seen a shipwreck.
That boat.
That's the shipwreck, yeah.
That boat.
An old ship.
Soon after this, we rounded our last bend and were within sight of Ramsholt again. The children retreated under the foredeck into their little den for the last 20 minutes or so, where they giggled and told each other stories, until we announced that we were going to be using the engine for the last couple of 100 yards just to help us into the slipway through the sheltered patch underneath Ramsholt. The GoPro's battery gave up shortly after this footage was taken, so I don't have anything of our landing back at Ramsholt, but I'm pleased to say it was uneventful. After our pub dinner, and with Tarka safely packed up on her trailer, we sat on the sea wall for a few minutes to watch the tide go out and just take in the view before starting the drive home. We had really hit the jackpot today. Everything had come together to make a perfect little cruise. We will certainly be coming back to this area again. Will we come straight back to the Deben and maybe try and do the bits that we haven't yet explored, or try another river? Well, that's to be decided on another day, but what's for certain is that our explorations of the East Coast rivers have only just begun. So Tarka is back in the garage after her trip down to Suffolk a few days ago and getting ready for her trip to the Lake District in about a week's time. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to bring you up to speed on a few modifications I've made in the last week or two, as well as show you a couple of repairs that I'm working on. So you might remember back from my very first video when I was complaining about how I couldn't open the tailgate of my car due to the fact that the front of the trailer was a little bit too short, and somebody suggested I could just extend it with a bit of steel box section and a new trailer hitch, and that's what I've done, and it's working brilliantly. Thank you very much indeed to who have made that suggestion. I can't remember who it was now, but that is making my life so much easier in so many ways. There is the old tow bar hitch which I took off, and there is the new one. And that ongoing problem of centreboard vibration, actually in Suffolk we hardly suffered from it at all. It did vibrate occasionally, but only for short periods. Sometimes it just vibrated for a little bit as the wind picked up, and then as the wind continued to pick up in a gust, it kind of went through the vibration and came out the other side and stopped vibrating. I don't know whether the improvement is due to the sticky, or soft I should say, padded tape that I've lined the top of the centreboard case with to just dampen the vibrations down, or whether it's the fact that I've replaced the plastic horn cleat, which we used to use to fix the centreboard, with that new clam cleat, which makes it much easier to raise and lower the centre plate, as well as putting this fair lead in here, which has lived in a drawer or a box for more than 20 years since I took it off my laser when they changed the class rules in 2001, I think it was. That has made raising and lowering the centreboard easier, and raising the centreboard a bit often stops the vibration, so maybe just the fact that the centreboard now is easier to move is the reason why we didn't really notice the problem on our Suffolk trip. A few days ago I found another little bit of Tarka's deck that looked like it was going a bit soft, felt like it was going a bit soft, and so as I did before, I gouged it out with my screwdriver and I've filled it in, and now I'm just in the process of getting it painted. So another patch of filler on Tarka's decks, which is going to end up being a plastic boat before long at this rate. The wheels have come off. I've taken the wheels off to give them a clean after their immersion in salt water, and I'm going to take the bearings off and not only clean them but replace them. I've got some brand new bearings, and the idea is that I'll have one set of bearings for trips when we have to put Tarka into salt water, and another pair which I will keep clean for trips up to the Lake District where it will just be fresh water. It's a little bit of a faff. I'm not sure if that's going to be the long-term solution, or whether we're going to have to look into getting a new kind of trailer which makes it easier to launch and recover Tarka without putting the wheels in the water. But for now, I'm having to get my hands greasy, well, at the moment, every couple of weeks. I've been doing some work on the rudder today in Suffolk, especially on that lovely close reach we had in a decent bit of breeze. There was quite a lot of weather helm. I think the reason partly was that the mast is still raked back a little bit far, but the main reason was we couldn't get the rudder fully down. I have tightened up the bungee, which is what pulls the rudder down, or has pulled the rudder down until now, but I didn't think that would quite be enough, so I've added this white rope here, attached it to the same point the bungee is attached to be able to actually haul the rudder down. Once it's hauled down, it might be that the bungee holds it, but if not, I've added this cleat, which is, I think they call them stern saver cleats. If you haven't seen them before, they're absolutely brilliant. They're designed to hold rudders down, but if there's a sudden impact with the bottom of the sea, for example, the cleat will leap out of its base and uncleat the rope, and the rudder will be able to come up, by saving your rudder or your gudgeons or pintles or wherever your weakest link happens to be. We've had one in Norfolk, used it on the RS200 up there, and it does exactly what it's designed to do very, very well indeed. So, as I say, if you haven't seen one of those before, they're worth knowing about. And here is the top end of Tarka's mast, and you can see where the rope shrouds and the top of the forestay, which only just is this long, running down onto the fitting at the top of Tarka's jib. But I don't get the chance to show you the top of Tarka's mast, of course, when the mast is up. The rope shrouds do seem to be working very well, although I have just noticed that this shroud has cut its way into the wooden block that it's mounted on. I don't think it can go any further. I think it's got as far as the screw, and obviously it isn't going to cut into that, but it has cut into the wood slightly. So I think probably just leave that for now once I've had a look and made sure that the rope isn't fraying at all in there. But might need to reinforce the top end of that wooden block with something pretty solid at some point very soon. And since I recorded that little bit of video, I have decided to shove in some epoxy with some bonding additive to reinforce both sides where the shrouds attach. So hopefully that will do the trick. So that's it for this video. Hopefully in exactly a week's time, Tarka will be safely moored up on Coniston Water in the Lake District. forecast is looking promising. I'll see you on the next one.